Hi, welcome to The Wishing World History, Part 3. I'm Todd Fonestock, author of The Wishing World. So last time we talked about Hugo the Turtle, which was a predecessor to the characters that ended up in the story, and not actually in the story The Wishing World at all. But he did give way to characters that eventually arose, and that's what I'm going to talk about this time. So I was succeeding in my efforts to get my kids to go to sleep by dreaming up this Hugo the Turtle who had these very slow, boring adventures that put my kids to sleep. But frankly, he was putting me to sleep too. As a storyteller, I was kind of aching for something a little bit more. I wanted a hero that would be more action-oriented, that would stir my blood. And so Gruffy the Griffon was born. And he was the hero's hero. He was courteous, he was strong, he was adventurous, he was loyal, he was all of these wonderful things that I always envisioned a hero would be. But what would a great hero be without his stalwart companions? And so Pip the Toucan and Squeak the Mouse were born. Now, Pip the Toucan repeats everything he says, everything he says, everything he says twice. He says twice. So he can get pretty obnoxious, and I actually found Pip to be fairly obnoxious the more I used him, but the kids loved it. They thought it was so great, and at that age especially, just some character that repeats things over and over, they really enjoyed that. And Squeak, of course, was the exact opposite. He wasn't obnoxious at all in the things that he would talk about. In fact, when he would talk, he wouldn't say a thing. He would just say, as you might guess, Squeak! But what he did say, everybody understood, and it was always something very important and very wise. So Gruffy, Pip, and Squeak had these grand adventures. They even took a detour to visit Hugo the Turtle a couple of times. They visited the bell-bellied bulwort of the Boophorus Bog. They had an escape from the parents' caper during bedtime, which the kids particularly liked. And then the last adventure before we started into what would become the framework for the Wishing World was another visit to Hugo the Turtle, where they got some advice to visit Azure City. And those of you who will be reading the book will recognize Azure City when you get there. So round about the time that these companions reached the Eternal Sea, which is another place that you'll learn about, Elowen started begging me to write it down. And writing novels is what I do, so I took her up on the challenge. We'll learn more about that at installment number 4 next week. Thank you so much for joining this journey with me, and I'll see you soon.